This is Homeschool 101, a collaboration between ABS Television and the Ministry of Education. Stay attentive and attempt all activities. And now, today's lesson.
Buenas tardes, estudiantes. Bienvenido a Homeschool 101. Hoy vamos a repasar para el examen oral. Y antes de repasar para el examen oral, nosotros vamos a repasar las notas de la clase de la semana pasada. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Homeschool 101. This afternoon, we're going to do some revision for the oral exams. But before we review for the oral exams, we are going to review our notes from last week's class. All right? So, for those of you who were with me last week, you will remember that we reviewed or we looked at the present tense verbs in Spanish. We looked mainly at our regular verbs, but we did a few irregular verbs. And one of the things that you would remember we did was looking at the three main grouping of verbs in Spanish. Now remember, a verb is an action word, right? So it shows action. And in your sentence, your verbs have to agree with the subject. So if I am the subject, yo, then the verb has to agree with me, I, Joe, right? If we are the subject, us, then the verb has to express that idea of us. So it has to agree with the subject. Now we looked at how to conjugate our verbs to ensure that they will agree with our subject in our sentences. Now it was very easy, so I'm just going to go over the tense endings, the present tense endings for our different categories of verbs, and then we will look at some of the irregular ones that we looked at before moving on to our oral practice. Now, we looked at the fact that we have AR, ER, and IR verbs, right? Now, all AR verbs in Spanish, in the present tense, have these endings. The yo form, ending O, tú, as, él, ella, a, usted, a. Stick a pin right there. Now, remember we said that in Spanish, we have a formal you, a way where we use it when we're speaking to persons that we don't know very well or someone who is an authority. For example, if you're going to address your principal, then you would use the usted form and not the tú form. All right? So continuing from there, we have nosotros, amos, ellos, ellas, and ustedes, an. Now, ER and IR share basically the same tense endings. We had said that there was only one difference, which is the nosotros form, where for the ER verbs it's emos, and for the IR verb it's emos. That's the only difference in the present tense. Emos, emos. Everything else, as you can see, remains the same. Now remember, we looked at verbs like hablar for AR verbs, comer for ER verbs, and vivir for IR verbs. All we have to do when we're conjugating them, they're regular verbs, we just take off the AR, ER, or IR, and we add the appropriate endings. Now, if I'm talking about myself, then I'm going to use yo. So, the yo form always ends in O. So, if I want to say I speak, I say yo hablo. If I'm speaking about my sister, say my sister's name is Sasha, and I want to say Sasha speaks, I have to use the third person, which is ella. So, sorry about that, third person, which is ella. So I would say Sasha habla because it ends in A. All right, and we do the same thing for all the other regular verbs. Now we also looked at some of the more regular, irregular, or some of the more common irregular verbs in Spanish. Ser, estar, ir, hacer, tener, poder. We use these very often. Ser and estar, you would have remembered I said to you, mean the same thing, to be. However, there are specific times when we have to use each. So for ser, we use it especially when we're looking at descriptions, right? When you're describing someone or something, we use it when we're talking about profession. What type of profession do you want to get into, or what type of profession are you already in? So for example, if I'm saying I am a teacher, I would say yo soy profesora. If you're saying your mother is let's say a doctor, mi madre es doctor, right? So whenever we're talking about profession or whenever you're describing someone, we're using the verb ser, even when we're telling time, and that's something that I would advise you to make sure you review before your exams, because time is going to come. You're using the verb ser. Estar we use when we're talking about how we're feeling. Yo estoy contenta. I am happy. Mi madre está triste. My mother is sad. When we're talking about our emotions, I am sick. Yo estoy enferma. We're using the verb estar. And also to say where we are. Yo estoy en casa. I'm at home. Or yo estoy en la escuela. I'm at school. Then we're using the verb estar. The verb ir means to go, so we use it to say where we want to go. Hacer, to do. Tener, to have. Tener is especially important because we use it to talk about age. And that's something you may just have to talk about whenever you're answering questions for the oral exam. So the examiner may ask you, ¿Cuántos años tienes? How old are you? And so you will say, yo tengo. So for example, me, yo tengo 15 años. I'm 15 years old. Right? The verb poder, to be able to, I can. Yo puedo cantar, I can sing. I really can't, but you get the point. Tú puedes ir al baño, can you go to the bathroom? Or tú puedes ir a la playa, can you go to the beach? Whenever we want to ask questions, we use the verb poder. So just remember these. I mean, this is not these are not all the irregular verbs we have in Spanish. They're just some of the more common ones. Of course, there are others, and I really implore you to make sure you review your irregular verbs. You may think to yourself, oh, this is the present tense and it's easy, but you'd be surprised how nervous we can get under exam conditions and the mistakes, the simple mistakes we make. Even me, doing this is new to me. And I know last week when I was doing it, it was my first time and there were some mistakes that I made and I'm like, oh my gosh, how could I have made those mistakes? So you see, we can make some simple mistakes when you're nervous, when you're under a little pressure. So you have to ensure you know the information, know it like the back of your hand so that it lessens the potential of you making any mistakes. All right? So even before we get into the oral practice, what I want to look at today specifically is the conversation, which is where I have found most of my students struggle with. It's easier for you to get through the reading, and it's a bit easier for you to get through the situations because you get the paper beforehand, so you have a little time to prepare. But I find a lot of my students struggle with the conversation, so that's what I want to focus on today. And one of the key areas I find they struggle with is knowing the question words. Like when you hear como, it's asking you how. Or when you hear cuando, it's saying when. All right, so you have to know your question words because knowing the question words is an indicator for you as to how you should answer the question. So it's a little jingle. I found it online on YouTube and it was posted by Cyberprofe on October 5th, 2016. So I'm just going to sing it a little for you. Remember, I can't sing, right? So y'all don't laugh at me, please. So I'm just going to, sing it for you and you can sing along at home as well. So it goes to the tune of Jingle Bells, and everybody's supposed to know Jingle Bells, right? If you don't know Jingle Bells, then I don't even know what's wrong with you, but everybody's supposed to know Jingle Bells. So, cuando, when, como, how, cuánto is how much, donde, where, por qué, why, porque is because, cuál is which, qué is what, quién is who or whom, a qué hora, at what time, a donde is where to. So we're gonna do that one more time, right? Cuando, when, como, how, cuánto is how much, donde, where, por qué, why, porque is because, cuál is which, qué is what, quién is who or whom, a qué hora, at what time, a donde is where to. So that's a very easy way. And if you want to go and look it up yourself, remember just type in Cyberprofe, look for October 5th, 2016, interrogative bells, jingle bells, and you will find it an easy way for us to remember what our interrogatives are in Spanish. Cuando, when, como, how, cuánto, how much, donde, where, por qué, why, and notice the difference, por qué, why, and por qué, because. There's a difference, right? And notice por qué, the because is not separated and it doesn't have an accent. Cuál is which, qué is what, quién, who or whom, a qué hora, at what time, a donde is where you're going. Okay, so I hope you remember that. Again, Cyberprofe, and you can find it on YouTube. I know you all are experts at social media and all these things, so I know you will find it. You don't have any problems. You're not like me. So, la conversación. Let's look at the conversation. Now, before we get into that, I just want to give you some tips for the exams. Ensure that you answer all your questions. Try not to use yes or no, sí or no a lot. So if they ask you, do you like, te gusta la música pop? Do you like pop music? Don't just say sí and don't just say no. If you're going to say sí, give a reason. Sí porque es muy emocionante, it's exciting, right? Don't try to elaborate as much as you can. Ensure that if you're responding to the question and it naturally allows you to say why you have answered in a particular way, explain before the examiner asks you. And that's something I tell my students all the time. So if they ask, who's your favorite teacher? ¿Quién es tu profesor o profesora favorito o favorita? And you're going to say, I'm your favorite teacher. Right? Mi nombre es señora Kelsick. So if you want to say Mrs. Kelsick is your favorite teacher, you say, mi profesora favorita es, and notice I put the favorita after the profesora. That's something, that's a mistake a lot of you make, putting the favorita before the profesora. It's profesora favorita, profesor favorito, playa favorita. The favorita always comes after. So if you want to say, I'm your favorite teacher, señora Kelsick es mi profesora favorita, don't wait for the examiner to ask you why. Just say, porque ella es, and you list the adjectives to describe why Mrs. Kelsick is your favorite teacher, right? So once you can naturally say why, say it. Because what it does is it lessens your time in the exam room, because that's less questions the examiner is going to have to ask you. And it allows the conversation to flow naturally as well. Instead of her having to grill you for information and, make it feel like you're pulling your tooth out because she has to pull everything out of you. It just flows naturally. So look at that. If you make a mistake and you correct yourself right away, then you're not going to be penalized. So if you make a mistake and you realize, oh man, I made a mistake. So for example, if you wanted to, let's keep in the same vein, Mrs. Kelsick is my favorite teacher. And you said, Señora Kelsick es mi profesora favorito. Remember, our adjectives and our nouns must agree. So you can't say favorito if you're saying profesora. But if you notice, man, I made that mistake right away, right after you say it, you notice you made a mistake, you can correct yourself. You can say, perdóname, señora Kelsick es mi profesora favorita. Then you're not going to be penalized because you would have self-corrected. All right? If you do not understand the question, you can ask the examiner to repeat. ¿Puede usted repetir, por favor? But please try not to use it for every question, okay? So you can ask them to repeat, but try not to use it for every question, because if you do, it shows that you're really lacking in terms of comprehension and you don't want to come across as being one who doesn't understand what she's saying, right? So you can ask the examiner to repeat, but try not to use it too often. Remember that the examiner is just a teacher from another school, and I can't stress this enough because I know you're going to be nervous. So for example, I don't do oral exams, but I have other teachers coming in to do oral exams with my students. And I always tell them, just think about it as me being in front of the classroom. She's just teaching at another school and she's coming to speak to you. And the examiners, they're not looking at you to say, oh, I'm going to mark him hard and I'm going to fail him. No, they want you to pass just as much as we want you to pass. And so they're going to work with you. I know our examiners here in Antigua, they're accustomed to visiting the schools before the exams, trying to put you at ease, because we really want you to do well. So just think of the examiner as just another teacher who's coming to speak to you and who's coming to have this wonderful conversation with you in Spanish, right? Make sure you use some of the following expressions, or you can use idiomatic expressions, and you can also use things like en mi opinión if they ask you what you think about a sport or what you think about someone. En mi opinión, el baloncesto es estupendo. In my opinion, basketball is marvelous, right? You can use things like en primer lugar, in first place, if you have to list things. So for example, if you're talking about your day, what do you do during the day? En primer lugar, yo me cepillo los dientes, I brush my teeth, things like that, and then you keep going to list the things that you do. So show them that you have a grasp of the language. Now, I know a lot of us struggle with vocabulary because I know my students do, and I know they're not the only ones. it's important that you go over and review your vocabulary. I know for sure that your teachers have given you lists on top of the list, on top of the list of vocabulary words, and it is important that you review those lists, all right, for you to learn the vocabulary. So just keep those things in mind and you should be fine. Remember, there are 3 parts to the exam. You have the situations, 5 sets of situations, you have the reading, and then you have the conversation. The conversation is the last thing that you do. So you want to ensure that you prepare for every area in the oral exams. And what we're going to focus on today is the conversation. All right, and the first part for the conversation, there's 6 areas that they ask us to prepare. You will be tested on 4 of those 6 areas. So we're going to look at all 6 areas. And what I've done is just listed a bit of the vocabulary that's needed for each area. No, this is not all the vocabulary, of course, because we know that list is just, it can go on and on and on. But just some of the regular things that you will see when you're talking about home and family, I just decided to list some of the vocabulary. Again, I cannot stress enough the importance of learning your vocabulary words. Use your friends, y'all quiz each other during the break. If you're watching TV, during the commercial break, take a 5-minute break, learn a word. When your show come back on, you watch your show. When it breaks again, test yourself on the words that you learned before to see if you remember. So you find creative ways to learn the vocabulary because it's important. It's just as important as knowing the grammar. Because mastering grammar and not learning vocabulary is not, it makes no sense. You have to master both and bring them together so that you can do really well on your exam. So when we're talking about home and family, we're mainly talking about ourselves. We are asked to describe our families, where we want to live or where we prefer to live. They ask us about our siblings. And so these are some of the words that you might see popping up. Madre, tío, suegro, abuelo, padrino. Padrino means godfather, padrina, godmother. Esposo, husband. We have suegro, father-in-law, primo, cousin. Those are some of the vocabulary words that we will see. When we are speaking of our family members, when we are asked to describe them, these are some of the things that we can use. Lindo, feo, I hope none of us use feo. Delgado, modesto, inteligente, estupendo, ruidoso. When we're talking about our family, describing our family, these are just some of the vocabulary words that you will see. And remember, especially for our adjectives, if you notice I have a /a, feo, fea, because our adjectives must agree with our nouns, right? In this case, the A represents the female version. So primo, boy cousin, prima, girl cousin, esposo, husband, esposa, wife, abuelo, grandfather, abuela, grandmother. I think most of you would know these already because they are things that you've been learning since first form.
You're watching Homeschool 101.
All right, just some sample questions from the home and family. Cuando es, and with CXC, you can be asked the same question in so many ways. So it's important to, look at some of the different ways that some of these questions can come so that you're not practicing just one way. You're not just saying, ¿cuántos años tienes? And that's all you know. So if they ask you about your age or when's your birthday, you know nothing else. So cuando es tu cumpleaños or cuando cae coming from the verb caer, which means to fall, literally to fall. So they're asking when does your birthday fall? Or cuando cumples, how old would you be or how much would you have, what your age would be for the upcoming year or whatever the case may be. This, once you see cumpleaños, you know they're asking you about birthday, right? So cuando es tu cumpleaños? Mi cumpleaños es el 10 de enero, 10th of January, right? The 10th of January. Second question, ¿quién es la persona más interesante de tu familia? Who is the most interesting person of your family? Or they might ask más inteligente. Inteligente means intelligent. Más simpática, nice. O más chistosa, funny. So, por ejemplo, en mi familia, la persona más chistosa de mi familia es mi esposo, right? The most funny person in my family is my husband. And try as much as possible to use complete sentences or complete thoughts. And you don't need to have your answer be long. Once it's a complete thought or complete sentence, it's fine. And if you know you're going to struggle to say a lot, try to keep it simple, right? Don't try to get yourself into a situation where you're saying so many things in one sentence, because what you do is it increases the potential for you making grammatical errors, and you're going to be penalized for those grammatical errors. So you don't want to just say yes or no, but you also don't want to be in a position where you're saying too much and making too many grammatical errors. So you have to find a balance. Describe una tradición interesante que observa tu familia. Describe an interesting tradition that your family observes. You are going to get a descriptive question. That's without a doubt. So it's important that you learn, and I try to tell my students, when you get descriptive questions, try to give at least 3 key things. Try to say 3 things. If it's whether to describe someone, something, he's telling you to describe a tradition, whatever the case may be. If you want to talk about Christmas, durante la Navidad, mi padre cocina el pavo, my father cooks the turkey, mi madre limpia la casa, toda la casa, my mother cleans the house, y mis hermanos y yo, nosotros vamos a comprar regalos para nuestros padres. We go to buy gifts for our parents. So 3 things about whatever it is that you're describing, and that should be a safe number to give you full marks, and also a safe number of things that you can manage to say. And how do I say it? Try to use the vocabulary that you know. So learn vocab, but if you don't know how to say, for example, you don't know how to say turkey, right? Turkey is big for Christmas. We cook the turkey and we cook the ham. If you don't know how to say ham and turkey, say chicken. My father cooks the chicken, right? So don't get nervous about the fact that you don't know how to say, oh man, I don't know how to say turkey, and I want to talk about Christmas. If it's chicken, you know how to say mi padre cocina el pollo. My father cooks the chicken, right? So that's just a point there for you. Some other questions that you could possibly get when talking about home and family. ¿Tienes mascota? Mascota means pet. Do you have a pet, right? So you should be able to say dog, cat, perro, gato. These are the things that we have in our home. Describe tu dormitorio. Describe your bedroom. Mi dormitorio es grande y es roja en color. Hay un foto de mi madre en la pared. There's a picture of my mother on the wall. So what I tell my students is it's important to learn, just like I showed you the adjectives, it's important to have adjectives, because you're going to be asked a descriptive question. At some point, you're going to be asked to describe an experience, describe someone, or describe something. So it's important that you have those, that you learn the adjectives so that you're able to do that just like that, right? At the snap of a finger. Then we have school and career. Of course, you're going to need to be able to talk about school and career. Some of the things, some of the vocabulary, you have profesor, director, some of the subjects, ciencias, arte, matemáticas. So for example, if they ask you, ¿cuál es tu asignatura favorita? What is your favorite subject? Mi asignatura favorita es español. O mis asignaturas favoritas son español y matemáticas. I don't like math, but for those of us who do, español y matemáticas y historia, right? Notice when I stated more than one subject, everything in my sentence went along with that. So I went from saying mi asignatura favorita es español to mis asignaturas favoritas son español, matemáticas y historia. So remember, everything in the sentence has to come together and has to agree. Your adjectives have to agree with the noun, which is the subject. The verb has to agree with the noun as well, which is the subject. So I went from saying me to miss and es to son, so that everything comes together nicely. You have areas in the school, for example, your cafeteria, la biblioteca, the library, el gimnasio, the gym. You have el jardinero, careers, gardener, el maestro. Maestro is also another way of saying teacher. El enfermero, nurse, el bombero, firefighter, el photographer, just some of the career words that you would need to know. In case they ask you, ¿qué quieres hacer en el futuro? What do you want to do in the future? So you can say, yo quiero ser, for me, yo quiero ser maestro. I want to be a teacher. Look at this, el payaso. For those of us who want to join the circus, I hope nobody wants to join the circus, but for those of us who want to join the circus, el payaso means clown. So yo quiero ser payaso. I want to be a clown. Alright, so just some of the vocabulary you would need. Some of the sample questions. ¿A qué escuela vas? What school do you go to? Or they can also ask this question, ¿a qué escuela asistes? What school do you attend? Right? Yo asisto a Princess Margaret. Yo asisto a Otters Comprehensive. Yo asisto a Pierce Secondary School. Right? So, ¿qué escuela vas? Or you would hear, ¿a qué escuela asistes? ¿Qué es lo que más te gusta de tu escuela? ¿Qué es lo que más te gusta de tu escuela? What do you like most about your school? So, por ejemplo, en mi caso, in my case, yo me gustan los profesores. I like the teachers, right? For you, it might be you like the sports, los deportes, or las actividades, or your friends, you like it because your friends go there, mis amigos, right? Whatever the case may be, you need to be able to talk about your school. Notice I used me gusta and me gustan. Gusta is one of those, I call them back to front verbs. It doesn't work like all our other verbs, and it's one of those verbs that I would advise that you review because you're going to hear it a lot and it's easy to use. Me gusta, te gusta, se gusta, nos gusta, and se gusta. If what you're talking about is in the plural form, then it becomes gustan. Me gustan, te gustan, se gustan, and so on and so forth. I know it's something that we've been doing since first form, so it's something that you should know, but just in case we forgot, it's important that you review it, so I would advise that you go and you revise. Just some advice for you as well, make YouTube your best friend. There are lots and lots of videos on YouTube with various topics in Spanish. So if you want to review gusta and other verbs like gusta, you can just go on YouTube, type in gusta, and you will see a host of videos. I like to use Senor Jordan videos. Senor Jordan, you can just type in and you will see all his videos. He is really good. I usually recommend him to my students. So if you want to go and take a look at some of the videos that he has to help with your revision, that would be a good idea as well. ¿A qué hora empiezan las clases? Empiezan comes from the verb empezar, which means to begin. So at what hour do your classes begin? And ¿a qué hora terminan las clases? At what hour do your classes end? So if they say, if you're going to look at what hour they begin, mis clases empiezan a las 8. My classes begin at 8. See why I say it's important for us to learn time? Because at one point or the other during this exam, you're going to use time. Whether it's in the conversation, la conversación, or the situation, las situaciones, you're going to use time at some point. So it's important that you review. So, mis clases empiezan a las 8 y terminan a la 1:30, at 1:30, right? ¿Qué quieres ser o en qué quieres trabajar? ¿Por qué? What do you want to be, or in what field do you want to work? So, yo quiero ser azafata. I want to be a flight attendant porque yo me gusta viajar, because I like to travel. Or you want to be a teacher. Yo quiero ser profesora porque me gusta me gusta trabajar con los niños. I like to work with children, right? So whatever the situation, ensure that you go review your vocab pertaining to careers. And remember, when you're talking about your career and what you want to be, we're using the verb ser a lot. And you can use the verb querer as well, which means to want. So yo quiero ser, I want to be, right? Yo quiero ser doctor, yo quiero ser piloto, yo quiero ser azafata, profesora. All those are career vocabulary, and it's important that you review them. I think I'm saying that a lot. A lot of things are important, and you're probably feeling, oh gosh, this is so much to learn in so little time. I know it might be a lot. It is a lot, but just give it your best shot, right? At this point, you already paid to do the exams. My advice is just to give it your best shot, and you never know where you're going to end up. Having a foreign language, whether you're doing Spanish or French, I know at least one of our schools, you learn to do Mandarin. Having a foreign language is always a benefit, it's always an advantage. So just give it your best shot. You never know what can happen, and you can also take it further after secondary school and decide to do it when you get to college. Anything can happen. I've had students who've been able to go to Mexico on school trips because they did Spanish, and they did so well when they were in secondary school. They went to university. She did Spanish in university, and she was able to get, I think she went on 2 trips to Mexico, student exchange trips. So you just never know where you're going to end up and the opportunities that you're going to get if you study a foreign language and if you do well at it. So just give it your best shot. I know you all are feeling a lot of pressure right now, but all we're asking for is your best, okay?
You're watching Homeschool 101.
Next area we're going to look at is sports and recreation. Some of the sports in Spanish, sport vocabulary in Spanish, el fútbol, that's easy enough, el baloncesto, basketball, el tenis, el partido is a game or match, that's how we say game or match. Some activities that we could look at, ir al parque, to go to the park, ir de paseo, to go for a walk, sacar fotos, to take pictures, montar en bicicleta, to ride a bicycle, leer, to read, and this is a regular verb. Montar is a regular verb as well. Mirar la televisión, to watch TV. Some of us, we watch a lot of TV. I love to watch TV, so don't feel no way. Salir con amigos, to go out with friends. We also have the verb jugar, which I took the opportunity to conjugate here for you because we use this a lot when we're talking about sports. So you play sports and you play games. So it's yo juego, tú juegas, él, ella, usted juega, nosotros jugamos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes juegan. So yo juego el baloncesto. I play basketball. I really don't. I am as awkward as they come. All right. Tú juegas el tenis. You play tennis. All right. So whenever we're talking about sports, we're looking at the verb jugar. And again, I put gusta down here. I mentioned it to you just a while ago. I put it down here, gusta. Me gusta, gustan. Te gusta, gustan. Se gusta, gustan. It goes on, nos gusta, or gustan. And se gusta, or gustan again. Remember, we use it when we're talking about something that we like or something that pleases us. So for example, if I want to say, talk about a sporting activity or some recreation that I like, then I would say, me gusta jugar el baloncesto. I like to play basketball. Me gusta ir a la playa. I like to go to the beach. So this is one of those verbs we use a lot. I call it a back-to-front verb. I don't know what your teacher may call it, but I call it a back-to-front verb because it just works kind of differently than some of our other verbs. But again, it's one of those I would advise that you go and you review, you study, go to YouTube, find a video that works for you, and make sure you review this verb. Some of the sample questions. ¿Qué haces? This is a really good one and one that comes very often. ¿Qué haces en tu tiempo libre? Or en tus ratos libres? Both asking the same thing, either tiempo libre or ratos libres. What do you do in your free time? So en mis ratos libres, yo me gusta leer, I like to read. Yo me gusta dormir, I like to sleep. Y yo me gusta comer, I like to eat. Read, sleep, and eat. Once I do have free time, right? So what do you do in your free time? And as I said before, if you can list at least 3 things, let that be your magic number, 3. When you're describing, 3. When you're listing, 3. So that's a good balance there between Not saying too much or not saying too little. So once you can list at least 3 things, that would be good. ¿Crees que es importante practicar un deporte? Do you think it's important to practice a sport? This is an area for, remember, some of the expressions I said to you can utilize. En mi opinión, that's an area where you can use that. En mi opinión, es importante practicar un deporte porque, because, right? So whatever your because would be, you can start with en mi opinión as one of the expressions that you can use to give your opinion about something. Te trasnochas los fines de semana. Now I use this in particular because trasnochas, I don't think that you ever stop learning, and for me, this is a verb that I learned just when I was preparing for this lesson today. Trasnochas comes from the verb trasnochar. Trasnochar, Trasnochar, and it means to stay up late. This is the first time I have ever seen this verb in my life, right? And I've been doing Spanish since I was in secondary school, and that's a good number of years. So this is the first time I've ever seen this verb. So you see, we're always learning. It's a language, and we're always learning new things. So you can never get to the point where you think you know enough. There's always more to learn, and it means to stay up late. So do you stay up late on weekends? Why or why not? And most of us stay up late on weekends. Sí, yo trasnocho los fines de semana porque no tengo que ir a la escuela. I don't have to go to school. So that's the biggest reason we stay up late, right? Because it's the weekend and it's supposed to be fun. So just to bring that to your attention, trasnochar. So just in case, there's CSEC decide, let me put this verb to try and trip them up, then you know what it means, okay? Moving on to the next section, daily routine. Daily routine is another area where we're going to see a lot of, not back to front verbs, but irregular verbs. These we call the reflexive verbs because the action reflects on the subject. So it's you doing something for yourself or to yourself. So we have verbs like acostarse, levantarse, ponerse, maquillarse for those of us who love makeup, bañarse, despertarse, quitarse la ropa. All when we're talking about our daily routine, what do you do on a daily basis? Me levanto, I get up. Me cepillo los dientes, I brush my teeth. Right? Some of the things. Hacer la cama, I make the bed. Almorzar, to have lunch. We have ponerse la ropa, to put on your clothes. Quitarse la ropa, to take off the clothes. Now, reflexive verbs can be troublesome. But again, I would advise Senor Jordan is an expert YouTuber, and he's really good at explaining some of these things. So you can just go and look up some of his videos, and also utilize your friends and your teacher as well, because you're back at school now. And if there's anything that you don't understand, you can always ask them to explain it to you. All right? Daily routine questions. ¿A qué hora te levantas? Entre semana or durante la semana. Now, entre semana and durante la semana expressing the same thing, just different ways of expressing the same thing. What time do you get up in the week? Yo me levanto, durante la semana, yo me levanto a las 5 de la mañana. I get up at 5 in the morning. That's really early, right? Or you can also say, ¿a qué hora te acuestas? At what time do you go to bed, right? Durante la semana, yo me acuesto a las 11 de la mañana, right? De la noche, lo siento. Yo me acuesto a las 11 de la noche. So, notice I said, the question asks, te acuestas, and I said, me acuesto, right? So just look over, because I'm talking about me. So just look over your reflexive verbs, the reflexive pronouns, and you see how it works whenever you're responding to questions like these. It can be a little complex sometimes, but with revision and with practice, you will get it fine, so don't worry about it. ¿Qué tomas para el desayuno? ¿Con qué te desayunas? Let's take the first part. ¿Qué tomas para el desayuno? Desayuno means breakfast, right? And this is the noun. The verb desayunar means to have breakfast. So, what do you take for breakfast? And Thomas, one of the verbs we looked at last week was the verb tomar, which means to take, but it can also mean, when they use it in this way, it can also mean to take as in food or drink, all right? So what do you have for breakfast? I know some of us wait till we go to school. I know at my school, a lot of my students wait till they go to school and bombard Marcia for breakfast because she has some delicious chicken and she has donuts and so, and she will even make tea for you if you want. So some of us have breakfast at school, some of us have breakfast at home. So what do you take for breakfast? So en mi caso, in my case, para el desayuno yo como huevos a veces yo como pan y queso, y a veces yo como cereales, right? So sometimes I take eggs, sometimes I eat bread and cheese, sometimes I eat cereal. Notice I didn't use the verb tomas again. It asks what do I take. I use the verb como coming from the verb comer. You can do that. So if you're not comfortable, not that I'm not comfortable, but if you're not comfortable with the verb tomas, and you understand what the sentence is asking, you can just use another verb because there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? One of my colleagues say that all the time. So meaning that there are different ways that we can do things. So you don't have to use back the verb if there's an alternative that you're more comfortable with. So I use the verb comer because I am more comfortable using the verb comer. The second part of the question asks, ¿con qué te desayunas? With whom do you have breakfast? Yo desayuno con mi madre o yo desayuno con mi esposo y mis niños. I have breakfast with my husband or my spouse and my children. Describe un día típico to you. Describe a typical day, right? So you get up, you go to school, you do whatever subjects you have. Just be able to describe your day. So me levanto, me cepillo los dientes y me baño para ir a la escuela. Yo llego a la escuela a las 8 y yo regreso de la escuela. I return from school a las 2 de la tarde. Yo limpio el dormitorio y yo lavo la ropa if you have to wash clothes, or yo lavo el carro, whatever you have to do. Y yo hago mi tarea y yo me acuesto a las 11 and I go to sleep at 11. Now, you don't have to make your answer as long as mine. I know it was long and I said a lot, right? So I said I get up, I brush my teeth and I shower to go to school. I get to school at 8. Yo llego a la escuela a las 8. I return home. Yo regreso a la casa a las 2 at 2 o'clock. I wash clothes, I wash the car, whatever other chore you have to do, and then you go to sleep. You do your homework, yo hago mi tarea, and then you go to bed. You don't have to say it as long. As I said, make 3. If you can say 3 key things, then you'd be able to find that balance between saying too much and saying too little. All right? Then we go to shopping. This should be a nice area for those of us who like to shop. Right? Some of the things, abierto, cerrado, tienda. Abierto means open, cerrado, closed. Tienda, shop, centro comercial, commercial center. Zapateria, it's a shoe store. Algodón, cotton, cuero, leather. Barato, cheap. Caro, expensive. Lujoso, luxurious. Elegante, elegant of course. Económico, economic. Just some of the vocabulary we'll use when we're talking about shopping. Normalmente, some questions. Normalmente, ¿quién hace las compras en tu familia? ¿Quién? Notice the word ¿quién? Who or whom? ¿Quién hace las compras en tu familia? And I hope you've been taking note of the question words that we reviewed before we started looking at the questions, right? These questions don't always start with a question word. Sometimes they start with a verb, and based on the verb used, then you would know how to answer, right? So this one starts with a question word, ¿quién? So we know it's who or whom. Hace las compras en tu familia. Who does the shopping in your family? So en mi familia, mi esposo hace las compras. If I was supposed to say, notice I use hace again because it's he. It's the third person, right? If I was supposed to say I do the shopping in mi familia, I would say yo hago las compras. Again, your verb and your subject has to agree, okay? Moving on to question 2. Notice this question starts with prefieres, the verb. Because I'm using the second person, prefieres, do you prefer? Then I know when I respond, it has to be yo prefiero, because it's asking, do you prefer? So, ¿prefieres tener una lista cuando vas de compras? Do you prefer to have a list when you go shopping? And why? Right? Sí, porque yo no quiero olvidar nada. I don't want to forget anything. Remember the verb olvidar means to forget. So, yo no quiero olvidar nada. I don't want to forget anything. ¿Qué vas a comprar para tu amigo esta Navidad? What are you going to buy for your friend this Christmas? Let's see. Esta Navidad yo no voy a comprar nada porque yo no tengo mucho dinero. This Christmas I'm not going to buy anything because I don't have a lot of money. You can answer like that. So if it is that you don't have anything to buy, you don't have to rack your brain and try to remember the name of, let's say you want to buy an Xbox or something for your friend. It's an expensive gift. But let's say you want to buy an Xbox or something simple, you want to buy a skirt. But you can't remember the word for skirt. But you can remember how to say, I don't have money. So you can say, yo no voy a comprar nada porque no tengo dinero. Or in the same breath, let's say you don't know how to say skirt, but you know how to say blouse, blusa. Then you can say, yo voy a comprar una blusa para mi amigo. I'm going to buy a blouse for my friend, because we buy blouse for girls, right? So don't get so stuck on one thing that you do not explore other options, right? Again, that's why it's important that you have a wide variety of vocabulary words that you're learning and that you know, so that if in the exam room you get stuck, it's so easy. You don't remember skirt or you don't remember how to say trousers, then you should remember how to say camisa. So you're going to buy a shirt. Or if you remember book, then you can say, I'm going to buy a book, una novela, I'm going to buy a novel for her, right? So be open enough to using different types of vocabulary words. Don't just get stuck on the one thing you want to say and psych out yourself because you can't remember the one thing. If you can't remember, then say to yourself, okay, what's another word I remember that can fit in here very nicely? And you try to fit it in. All right?
You're watching Homeschool 101.
Our last section we're looking at is travel. I love to travel. I know some of you like to travel. Different ways of traveling: el avión, el tren, el crucero is a cruise ship. Then you have, it's important when you travel to be able to ask for where things are located or where places are located. So, ¿dónde está? Right? So, ¿dónde está el museo? Where's the museum? ¿Dónde está el centro comercial? Where's the commercial center, the shopping center? So, it's important to know this expression. It's also important to know your greeting words. Buenos días, buenas tardes, especially if we go to a Spanish-speaking country. Mucho gusto, it's nice to meet you. All right, so it's important to know our greeting vocabulary. El aeropuerto, la tienda libres de impuestos, that's the shops free, tax-free shopping or duty-free stores. El control de seguridad, that's the security control. País means country. Sitio de interés, sites of interest. For example, you have different museums, you may have different structures, statues and stuff like that that have sites of interest. Here in Antigua we have Shirley's Heights, Nessie Dockyard. So be able to ask for sites of interest. Los restaurantes, el hotel. You want to be able to ask for some of the restaurants, right? Travel. ¿A qué país o países has viajado? So what country or countries have you traveled? So where have you visited? Now again, this is another area where you can use, if you don't want to use viajado coming from the verb viajar, then you can use the verb visitar, which means to visit. So yo he visitado Canada. I have visited Canada. Or yo he visitado Barbados. I have visited Barbados. All right, so again, you can just mix it up here. You're not comfortable with viajar, you want to use visitar, then you can, because all it's asking is, where have you traveled to? Where have you visited? Okay. ¿Qué documento se necesita o necesitan normalmente para viajar? Well, ahora, or hoy en día, today, mostly all you need is your passport. In the Caribbean, if you're traveling in the Caribbean, especially in the OECS Caribbean countries, sometimes you can just use your driver's license or some government ID. All right, so yo necesito el pasaporte. All right. ¿Es fácil viajar entre las islas del Caribe? Is it easy to travel? Yes. Why? Because it's not expensive, porque no es muy caro. Okay. These are just some of the areas I wanted to look at today. Again, as I said, do not get so wrapped up in knowing one word meaning one thing that you don't explore other vocabulary words. You can always mix it up. And a good tip I give to my students is if you want a little time when you're answering questions, use fillers like bueno. So in the time that you take to say bueno, it gives you a little time to think. So bueno, un día típico en mi vida, or hoy vamos a. So you can use little fillers like that to give you a little time to think before you answer the question. Again, you can always go to your teachers, use your friends, you all study together. YouTube is a good area where you can go to look up videos for you to study. Senor Jordan, he is really good again. I would recommend that you look up his videos to help you in terms of practicing for your own exams. And I wish you all the best for your own exams. I hope you all do well. Remember, the examiner is just another teacher who's coming to speak to you. Don't think about it as an exam. Think about it as a conversation. And I hope you all do well. Right? Buenas suerte, estudiantes, y adiós, es todo por hoy.
You've been watching Homeschool 101, a partnership between ABS Television and the Ministry of Education. Thank you for viewing this lesson. Join us again next time.